morning, Ayo. Thank you so
Morning,
much for
Dharma.
taking your time this morning
Thank
to
you.
join me to discuss your book with Cheryl Giles and the 8 wonderful contributors, Black and Buddhist, which is now out and will be the book selection for IMS's March Book Club.
I
So,
really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
yes, thank you. Um, so, I guess just to start, you want to tell us a little bit about the book and how it came about?
Yes. Well, in 2018, there were just over 30 African American, African descended actually, Buddhist leaders who came together at Union Theological Seminary in New York. And we gathered just to, to get to know each other, be together, talk about our lives as Buddhist teachers and leaders, and the challenges of being in Black bodies and largely non-Black body spaces. That's one way to put it. And part of that gathering then was an invitation to the public to join us for conversation. So we had panels of the teachers and then Q&A from the audience. And I think there were probably about 200 people who came for that conversation. And one of the questions that was posed had to do with a conflict. It was like an ethical conflict regarding some of the teachings from Thich Nhat Hanh. And I don't remember the exact conflict, but it had to do with taking sides. You know, if we are supposed to be practicing non-dualism, non-discrimination, and so on, and you know that there are bad actors out there, how do you hold that place of being neutral, but you know that what's happening is also destructive? How do you do that? Anyway, that conversation then led to me saying that I believe Thich Nhat Hanh to be Black. And there was a gasp in the audience. And then I went on to say that, he became Black while he was in Vietnam and the United States was bombing him and his people. And that's an experience of white supremacy. And the impact on that is a minoritization of people. So then that led to one of the editors, Matt Zeppelin from Shambhala Publications, approaching me and asking me if I wanted to write a book. And so we went back and forth with some ideas, one coming out of an article I wrote called Buddhism in the Age of Black Lives Matters. And my sense in that article was that Buddhism could speak more, I say, could be more relevant if it is taught as a collective practice, a collective liberation practice. So Matt and I talked about writing a book, me writing a book about collective liberation practice. And then I said, well, how about this? How about we have a collective writing the book about collective liberation? And that's how this project got started. That's a long answer, but that's how I got started.
And the book, the series of the collection of stories, the various contributors, they tell their personal stories as being both Buddhist and Black. And what direction did they have, or what were they asked to do for this, or how to contribute to it?
We gave very little instruction. Basically said, this is the title, and write whatever it is that you'd like to write about. And I'm glad that we did it. We did it that way because, of course, with each chapter that came in, we were delighted and surprised and learned something because we really had very little in the way of an agenda. We trusted Cheryl, Giles, and I, the co-editor. We trusted the people who agreed to contribute to this anthology.
And a central theme to both subjects, being Black and being Buddhist, is this core of freedom. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that's explored in this collection?
Yeah, I'll say again, we had little in the way of an agenda, but because we all share some similarities in our cultural conditioning and upbringing, we know that freedom is it's a value that's shared across people, across nations across Buddhist lineages. But with respect to African-descended people, freedom means a lot of things. It means freedom from oppression. It means freedom to be engaged in self-determination. It means freedom to be healthy and create one's own sense of self. And so, without much in the way of an agenda, with people across lineages, gender expressions, ages, we just said, hey, whatever freedom means to you, if that's what you want to address, please address it. And what it means to us generally is that we are still in the process of being free. And we believe our Buddhist practices have helped us along the way to greater freedom. And we also believe that we have something to offer as teachers to people who want the same thing.
And you mentioned that some of the essays came with surprises to you.
Mm-hmm.
Want to talk about what maybe a few of those were?
Yeah, well, a few of them had to do with, I'll start with trauma, the sophistication of some of the writers in their understanding of trauma, what trauma is, the impact it has on our psyches, our bodies, and our spirits, as well as how Buddhist practices help alleviate the suffering that's caused by trauma. So that was a surprise to me. Another surprise to me had to do with what I call our Jesus-loving Buddhist leaders, still embracing the beliefs that they were brought up with as foundational, and being able to integrate Christian teachings with Buddhist teachings. I thought, I think it's really remarkable, especially for real, frankly, in the United States, most people grow up in some kind of Christian home. And so to be able to recognize that you don't have to throw that out in order to embrace Buddhism, I think will be welcome for a lot of people. Also, I shouldn't have been surprised, but I am a little surprised by some of the contributors who have written before. It's amazing to me sometimes. You think, wow, I mean, the last thing they wrote, they really, what else can they say, right? And then they write something else. It's like, oh my gosh, there's more there that's also profound. So those are some of the ways that I was surprised. And then also because Cheryl and I, we didn't know actually like intimately know everyone who contributed. To learn about a person through their writing is always surprising. So those are some of the ways that we were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of like diverse backgrounds, people coming from different places, and also different parts of the Buddhist world are represented here as well. Can you just comment on that spectrum?
Yeah. So even though we were not, I can say, heavy-handed as it related to having a particular agenda about what the contributors should write about, Cheryl and I were very intentional about inviting people from a broad spectrum of Buddhist perspectives. And one of the reasons why we wanted to co-edit an anthology, and one of the reasons why we wanted a broad spectrum of Buddhist practitioners is because even though there have been several fine books written by African American and African-descended Buddhist practitioners, it tends to be part of the culture here to identify these single authors as exceptions, to the rule. Oh yeah, well, most African-descended people in the United States are Christian, but there's that Buddhist over there, and that Buddhist over there, that Black Buddhist over there, and that doesn't really represent a movement. And so we want to be sure that in this book we're representing a movement.
Did you and Cheryl have a sense after you had collected all of the essays and and saw what you had, a sense for what you hope it will do when it gets out into the world. What readers will take away from it.
Yes. Yeah. I'll speak for myself. For myself, I remembered being introduced to Buddhism uh, almost 20 years ago, but not knowing any African American Buddhist practitioners. So I grew up in the United Methodist Church. Though I had left the church years before I encountered Buddhism, I still felt, even though it spoke to me immediately, uh, I still felt it was kind of strange, right? That it would speak to me immediately, because as far as I knew, nothing in my experience as an African descended person would have prepared me to have this immediately positive response to Buddhism. So I know that there are other people out there, African American or otherwise, who are encountering Buddhism in a variety of ways and maybe feeling like, I'm still not sure if this is for me. My hope is that this book will let people know that they belong to something that they don't even know yet what that is, but they already belong. All they need to do is walk in, and we'll be there to embrace them.
And so our book club begins on March 17. It's 3 successive Wednesdays. And for this book club, we're doing something a little bit different. You're bringing in several of the contributors of the book, and how do you see them maybe adding to the conversation?
Yeah, I would say, just like receiving their chapters, we should be open to surprise.
Well, this should be a real fun adventure. I'm thrilled that we're doing this. I'm thrilled that I have the honor of doing this with you and the contributors, and we hope that everyone out there listening to us now will go to the IMS website and sign up.
And,
Thank
you, John.
See you on March 17, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayo.